Hey guys, welcome back to more neighbor stories. In this video, an insane Karen built a solar panel farm on my property and claims that she owns my entire land because she is using it already. And in our second story, a neighbor built an entire house on my land and claimed that they had permission to do so. Let's dive right into the video. The first one starts like this. I own a piece of property that is basically totally undeveloped land. It's essentially a forest and I tend to go for very long periods of time between visiting it. I want to explain the how and the why I have it quickly before I get into the meat of things. Well, growing up, I wouldn't see my uncle too often despite the fact that he was probably my favorite adult. He worked jobs that took him out of the country and I remember him always bringing things back to me. Every year, though, I would go with my dad, uncle and little brother on a trip. We'd be going camping and I remember when I was about 12 asking why this is a spot we always went camping. My uncle explained that he owned the land, which to me was really cool. It was a family tradition for the land to keep getting passed down to the firstborn boy in the next generation, which was me, so I knew for a long time that at one point I was gonna get this part of land. When it happened, I was actually really depressed about losing my uncle. I visited at first about twice a year to just sit in the forest and think about him. The years kept going by though and I got really busy with my life. I got married, had a more solid job and lived on the other side of the country. I never got rid of the land though and always figured I would eventually go back to it. That moment did not end up happening for years. I got a letter in the mail talking about an application for a building on that property. I was really confused and felt like there was an issue and I had to go there and sort it out. I was happy for the excuse to go after all the years had passed. The stars seemed to align that I had time off work and my wife could not go on any vacation type thing with me because she was staying with her sister who just had a baby. Well, I had the time and nothing to do, so I went back to the forest to check on the property and to think about old memories. None of which happened because when I got there, what I found was nowhere close to what I remembered it looking like. The entire plot of my property had every single tree removed from it and in its place were giant solar panels as far as the eye could see. It was basically a farm of them and I was just walking through it in total shock about the entire thing. My forest was gone and I never rented out the land or sold it off for somebody to do something like this. I must have been getting too close because a woman stopped me and started to question who I was. I will call this woman Karen because if the shoe fits you, might as well wear it. Me, hi, do you know if whoever's in charge is here? I need to get some things sorted out with them. Karen, that would be me. This is my solar panel farm and you are trespassing and could damage something, so I'm gonna need you to step back. Me, who told you that you could cut down the trees and build all of this? Karen, nobody told me. It is my property and I grabbed it up and took advantage of the empty space. Me, well, I own the property though. I have the deed for it and everything. This whole zone you're on belongs to me. I never gave you permission for any of this. I did not give you my property. Karen, don't you know what squatters' rights are? You did not use the property, so that means you lose it. I argued back and forth that it didn't matter if I was not using the land, it still belonged to me. Even showing the application letter I got, proving that even the state still believes that I'm the person who owns the land. Karen started to get really dismissive and started to tell me that she did all the work and now I just want to steal her profits. She then switched tunes to try and legally buy the property off of me. I guess if it was in her name, she could build whatever she wanted and I would not need to give the okay and I could not stand in her way. I was about to tell her that it was not about money but more about memories and family tradition, but she had already started going on. Karen, okay, so taking what the land was when I got here, I think that about $100 should be more than fair. Me, first of all, I never said that the property was for sale. I never had any intention of selling it. Second, you're really gonna see the size of this land and think that $100,000 is fair? The land is worth way more than that even before you did anything to it. Karen, ha, you thought I was offering $100,000? No, I said $100, one bill. That is all it was worth. Now Karen was really pissing me off. She started telling me that she was doing me a favor, taking over the property since I was supposedly doing nothing with it and clearly too busy to even come and check on it. She started saying a bunch of legal crap which I honestly don't think she even understood. I knew that she wanted to scare me and make herself look smarter. All of it came down to one argument that she had. Since she was already using the land and therefore in possession of it, that made it hers. Which to me made as much sense as a kid stealing a toy and then claiming it belonged to them. I tried to reason with her as an adult that I had the deed to the property and had even been paying the taxes on it, so it was not abandoned. Karen, this is the last time I'm telling you to leave. You have no idea the type of connections I have. You cannot win against me in a court case and would only embarrass yourself. So why don't you go back to where you came from? I left and let Karen think that she had won, but instead decided to take things up to another level. I contacted the local police department and let them know that my property had been taken over by Karen, who had no legal rights to it, with me wanting to file a report to get the solar panels removed. I also got into contact with the company who provided her with these solar panels. It was not a huge corporation luckily, so I was able to get a hold of somebody. I told them that they were providing solar panels to be placed on stolen land. They told me that they were gonna pull out on their end of things, and I told them I was not trying to sue them or go after them, just Karen. I was not trying to make some big payout, just get my land back. I showed back up to the farm a couple days later with a cease and desist letter from the city. Karen tore it up as if it was the original and now gone forever. I told her everything and that her company was pulling out because she had stolen the land. This did not go over well with Karen at all. Karen, how dare you call them up and sabotage me? I told you before that I have very powerful friends. Me, and I have a letter saying that this land does not belong to you. If you try and sue me, I can promise you that you will just lose and look like an even bigger fool. Your squatter rights mean nothing. Karen, I have friends that can make you disappear, buried somewhere in this forest that you seem to love so much. Me, well that's fine, because I have friends too that came here with me, and I'm sure they would love to hear about your friends. The police had also arrived and were investigating Karen and her entire project because of it. Now she was scared, knowing that there would be actual consequences for her actions. She was also in trouble now for threatening my life right in front of police that she was ignoring because of how into yelling at me she was. She tried and failed to turn it around, saying they could not arrest her because she had claimed the property since it was abandoned. That there was no more cease and desist letter, so they had no right to remove her from the property. And my personal favorite, she was now telling the police that she knew important people and they would be sorry. Like, good job Karen, threaten the police, I'm sure that will end up helping you even more in the long run. I said before that I never wanted to sue the actual solar panel company, but they came to me offering compensation. A large sum of money as well, and taking care of the removal of all the solar panels and equipment that were on my property. I guess they were really trying not to get sued because of what Karen did, well, since technically they might have been found at fault for not making sure the property their solar panels were going on were legal. I made a deal with the company directly that I would be willing to allow them to build a small solar panel array on a specific section of my land, and I do believe in clean energy and felt like solar panels being used there can be a good idea. The rest of the land I was focused on planting new trees and hoping some of the forest could be returned to its prior beauty, along with a fence now to try and stop this kind of thing from ever happening again. As for Karen, the last thing I heard was that she was facing some fines now. The bigger issue was that the solar panel company was wanting money back that she now owed them and could not afford without the solar panels making her money. And the next one is an Am I the A-hole story, where a crazy neighbor built an entire house on OP's land. So my family owns a 15-acre piece of beautiful land that's been in our family for generations. It is this beautiful wooded property that we use as our escape from city life, a place where we can go hiking, have picnics and just decompress. The property is rectangular, about 525 feet along the front and back and 1,200 feet on the sides. We don't live there full time, but someone from the family visits at least monthly to check on things and maintain the property. Everything was fine until January of this year, when a new neighbor, let's call her Karen, bought the adjacent property. I first met her when she was doing her initial walkthrough of her land. She seemed friendly enough, talking about her dream home plans. "You will barely even notice that we are here," she said with what I now recognize as a suspiciously bright smile. "We are planning to build setback from the road, very private." I should have paid more attention when she started clearing land in January, but the front of our property is heavily wooded and there's this natural ridge that blocks the view of where she was building. Between January and May, I just assumed that everything was going according to plan on her property, but then came May, when my brother and I were doing our monthly check of the property. We always walk the entire perimeter to make sure that everything is okay, and that's when we found it, a completely built house sitting squarely on our land. What the actual hell? My brother said, standing there staring at this massive barn-dominium-style house that had appeared like some kind of twisted magic trick on our property. I immediately called Karen, who agreed to meet us at the site. Her response was interesting to say the least. "Oh yes," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "I thought this might come up. I may have measured from the wrong fence line. The property description in my deed was a bit confusing." "A bit confusing?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice level. "This entire house is on our land." She shrugged and said, "Well, I was too cheap to get a survey done. But look, it's already built now, so surely we can work something out, huh?" "Work something out? Karen, your entire house is sitting 25 feet into our property. This is not a fence that's a few inches over the line, this is an entire house." "Don't be so dramatic," she rolled her eyes. "It's not like you're using this land anyway. I will give you a fair price for the piece I built on." I took a deep breath. The land is not for sale, and we have plans for this property, and more importantly, it's been in our family for generations. That is when her whole demeanor changed. "Well, what exactly do you expect me to do? Tear down my brand new house? Do you know how much this gonna cost me?" "That's not really my problem," I replied. "You built on land that you don't own without even doing a proper survey." She stormed off after that, but not before saying, "Good luck making me move it. I've already moved in." Over the next few weeks, we tried to be reasonable. I had a survey done at my expense, which confirmed that what we already knew, 100% of her house was on our land, starting 25 feet over the property line. We sent her the survey results along with a letter requesting she remedy the situation, but she ignored it. Then we found out something even more concerning. This is in an unincorporated area where building permits are not required except for septic systems. So not only had she built on our land, but she had not even gotten the required septic permit. Instead, she had illegally connected to an old system that was not nearly large enough for her house size or up to current codes. We discovered later that all the work had been done by her brother's construction company, the same brother who, it turned out, had advised her that she probably did not need a survey. After a month of getting nowhere, I consulted with a property lawyer. The conversation was enlightening. "This is what we call bad faith encroachment," my lawyer explained. She knew that there might be an issue with the property line, but she chose to build anyway without even verifying. That's gonna work in our favor. We sent an official letter from the lawyer, but Karen ignored it. We sent a second letter, and she posted a rant on Nextdoor about how we were trying to make her homeless and how we were money-hungry developers. By the way, we are not. I'm a teacher and my brother works in IT. That is when things got really interesting though. We took her to court for an eviction hearing, and in court Karen's lawyer tried to argue that moving the house would cause her undue hardship. The judge was not having any of it though. "Miss Karen," he said, looking over his glasses at her, "are you arguing that your decision to build a house without a survey, without proper permits and entirely on someone else's property should now be their problem to solve?" "But they never stopped me from building it," she protested. "Did you inform them that you were building on their land?" the judge asked. "Well, no, but… and the property is heavily wooded with terrain that blocks the view of where you built." "Yes, but… so you built entirely on someone else's property without their knowledge or permission, without proper surveys or permits, and now you are arguing that they should be forced to accommodate your mistake?" She lost, but of course she appealed, and that is where we are now, waiting for the appeal hearing next month. But here is where I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole. People in our community have been divided, half are supporting us, saying that we have every right to protect our property, the other half think we are being cruel for not working something out with Karen. They've suggested we should either sell her the land or lease it to her long term. My brother and I have stood firm. This land has been in our family for 3 generations. Our grandfather used to take us camping there when we were kids. Also, we got plans to create a family retreat where our kids can experience nature like we did, but Karen's supporters are making us out to be the villains, saying that we are destroying a single mother's dream. Though we later found out that her kids are all grown up and living in different states. The final straw came yesterday though, when Karen's brother, the contractor, approached me at the local grocery store saying, "You're making a big mistake," he said, blocking my path with his shopping cart. "My sister put her life savings into that house. You're going to ruin her." "Your sister and you made this mistake," I replied, trying to stay calm. "You told her that she did not need a survey, and you built on land you did not own. We all make mistakes," he shouted, causing several people to stare at us. "You're just being stubborn. That land means nothing to you." "That land means everything to our family," I said, and then walked away as he continued yelling. So Reddit, am I the a-hole here? Or should we just sell her the land and be done with it? Edit, wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for the supportive comments, and to address some common questions, yes, we have documentation of everything, including the original survey from when we inherited the property, and number 2, Karen's brother's construction company is now under investigation by the county for the illegal septic connection. And by the way, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments whether you think OP is the a-hole here or not. Furthermore, we have documented every interaction and kept all messages and emails. Number 4, our lawyer says that we have an extremely strong case for the appeal. Update: the appeal hearing happened yesterday, and I have some satisfying news to share. The appeals judge added additional penalties for Karen's willful disregard for property rights and public safety regulations. Here's what happened in court. So our lawyer presented evidence that Karen had actually been warned by her real estate agent to get a survey before building, but she had declined because supposedly surveys are a waste of money. The agent testified to this effect, which completely destroyed Karen's honest mistake defense. Then the county inspector testified about the illegal septic system, calling it a potential environmental hazard. Karen's brother, under oath, had to admit that he knew the system was not up to code but did it anyway to save money. The judge's final ruling was comprehensive. Karen has 60 days to remove the house from the property, restore the land to its original condition, pay all our legal fees, and pay damages for the environmental impact of the illegal septic system. Also, she has to pay additional punitive damages for building in bad faith. All told, she's on the hook for about 175k. Plus the cost of moving the house, if it can even be moved. Her brother's shoddy construction may make that impossible. Comment number 1, as a real estate lawyer, this makes my blood boil. This is a textbook case of bad faith encroachment. She was warned to get a survey and chose not to. She knew she might be building on your land and did it anyway. That is not an honest mistake, that's just willful negligence. You're absolutely right to pursue this legally. Comment number 2, family land is precious. My grandparents had to sell their family farm and it still hurts 20 years later. Don't let anyone guilt you into giving up your heritage. Karen made her bet on your property illegally, and now she can lay in it somewhere else. Or lie in it, I guess. Anyway, final update, the land is back in our possession and we are working with an environmental cleanup crew to fix the septic issues. Once that is done, we are moving forward with our original plans for a family retreat. Karen has apparently moved in with her brother while she figures out her next steps, but honestly, that's no longer our problem. And before I let you guys go, I will read one last story from r/malicious compliance, which is incredibly satisfying. It is titled, "Throw your receipt at me, have fun picking it up from the trash." So I worked at a hardware store about 7 years ago. We sold big gas bottles, 11 kilogram or 24 in freedom units of LPG, and if you brought in an empty bottle, we would give you a filled one in exchange for a prize. How it worked was that the customer came to the checkout, expressed their wishes on what kind of bottle they needed and paid. The gas bottles were given them outside the store at a loading station for bigger goods. The checkout machine would automatically print 2 receipts, one normal receipt and one the customer would hand over to a worker in the loading station outside the store as a proof that they paid for the gas. Well, by law, we had to always verbally offer a receipt to every customer. This is to prevent selling things under the table, and a cashier could get fined if they did not offer a receipt. Basically, a lot of customers automatically deny having the receipt and just tell you, "No receipt, thanks," before you even open your mouth. Some of them take the receipt but just drop it directly at the trash bins right after the checkout. Well, in comes the villain of our story. A middle-aged man who wants to exchange his empty bottle to a filled one. Here's being a generic a-hole and barely acknowledged me, the cashier in my mid-20s. He pays and takes the receipts, he crumbles them up and throws it at me. He said he did not need a receipt. Working in customer service was not a peak career point, and as every sane person knows, customers are often wrong. However, never ever had I been disrespected so much that someone would throw a piece of trash at me. Well, in kicks the malicious compliance. I knew the dude needed the receipt to get what he paid for, so I took the receipt ball he had made, dropped it quietly to the big trash bin next to me, and started helping the customer in line that was next. The disrespectful man took a few steps away, realized his mistake, and said that he actually needs the receipt back. I was busy already with the next customer, so with the brightest smile and happy tone I said, "Sure, it's in here," and handed the trash bin to him. Divine Justice had also arranged it so that we had cleaned the checkout floors quite recently and emptied the dust into the trash bin. He had to handpick his receipt ball from the middle of grey dust, old chewing gums and whatever yucky stuff had ended up in the huge bin. I'm glad to say the a-hole turned a lot nicer and lost his demeaning attitude as he was shuffling through the trash. If you liked the video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and I will see you again tomorrow.